What
I
was
was
it? It
the
was
interviewee.
yeah, yeah. Disturbing the priest. I think was
Yeah,
the name. Yeah, man, you've
yeah,
had a fucking life.
yeah, I have. Well, I have a huge metal history, and that was a metal podcast. So that was,
Yeah.
yeah, I've become friends with that guy. He's a younger guy, and he
Hmm.
approached me and asked me for advice about his podcast. Next thing you know, he wanted me a guest. He wanted me to be a guest on his show. So,
And I think it's cool, like everyone's got stories, and like it's kind of what makes the world go round in ways.
and that's what I do. This is like 342, I think. And I've just been talking to musicians, producers, music writers, whoever, about music. And I love it. I love hearing everyone's stories. Um, Speaking of stories, before we talk about the See the Future EP, I was hoping we could go a little bit back. And did you both grow up in Seattle? And I was going to ask you where you guys grew up, and if you could talk about what it was like growing up and what kind of music you got into and maybe some of your early influences.
Yeah.
Jen?
Ted?
Yeah. Oh,
Oh.
Well, I'll let you start. You start, Jen.
Oh, dang it. All right. Yeah, I grew up in Seattle. I grew up in the city of Seattle, and I was raised by two moms. Really got started out in the punk scene in Seattle in the 90s. So I was like a little punk rock girl. I had the nose ring and the chains and the piercings and the turquoise hair. And, that's where I first got a start in music, was with the punk rock activist scene in Seattle, very politically driven. I was like this vegan straight edge. I was big fan of Minor Threat, Fugazi, and
nice.
then yeah, so that's where it started for me.
What about the Seattle bands? Did you like all those the bands? Like the 90s was the grunge scene in Seattle.
I did. Well, it was kind of it's when when grunge became popular, I was part of such an underground like indie punk scene that the mainstream grunge wasn't cool. So, when like Nirvana, when they signed, I remember I still have Bleach on cassette
It's a
tape.
good one. That's a good one.
Yeah, really good one. So, most of my friends, we were just so opinionated about music and stuff. So, like, I didn't really get into the alternative mainstream grunge music until a little later. Yeah. But I was more into just like, smaller punk bands, riot girl bands, like a lot of the bands from Olympia, Kathleen Hanna from Bikini Kill, Bratmobile, Slim Moon from Kill Rock Stars signed Tattletale, my first band, which was pretty awesome. So yeah, that's the stuff I was listening to. Yeah.
Nice. So
Yeah.
You're from Seattle also, right, Ted?
No, well, I lived there for 20 years, so practically my like young adulthood through adulthood, was in Seattle. But actually, I was born in Taiwan. I lived in Jersey initially, like for 5 years, and then my family moved down to North Carolina, where I kind of like, I guess, grew up, right? So that's where, yeah, so through there, I think, how did I get to Seattle? So I met some friends in college in St. Louis, and I decided to move out to Seattle to actually start a band with them. And that's where I think I became more serious about music. And it was kind of like an indie rock band. Um, and yeah, then just kind of got into the scene. That's how I met Jen. I was working at a video store there called Scarecrow Video. Um, if you don't know about it, it's kind of like this famous sort of like, yeah, it's like the last stronghold of like physical video, physical media out there.
Mhm.
It has like the largest video collection in the world right now. I think they have like 120,000 titles under one roof.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was a lot of like movie and film buffs, but ironically, all the people that work there were in bands actually themselves, and that's how I got into the music scene.
Where did you go to school in St. Louis?
WashU.
Oh,
Washington
Washington.
University.
Yeah, yeah, in
Yeah,
Seattle. That's funny. Then you ended up in
yeah,
Washington. Um,
yeah,
the Long Ranger, was that a band that you had in
yeah.
Seattle? Because I heard of the Long Ranger indie band.
Oh, that's awesome. Um, yeah, you know, the name kind of just started as a joke, and then it kind of got some legs, and we just kind of kept rolling with it. Yeah, it was. I was. So that was actually inspired by like a weird kind of backstory, kind of personal, and a funny, weird kind of detail around that. So when I first got to Seattle and I was working at this video store, like just trying to find my way, and then out of the blue, my father passed away from like a random accident. And so I was just kind of like wandering around trying to figure out things, you know, dealing with my feelings. And I was breakdancing back in the day, if you can believe that. But I was at this breakdancing night, this b-boy night, and the last song that they played, um, so everyone was like kind of battling, and they had all these little ciphers around, you know. And the last song that they played was Prince's "Erotic City," and like all of a sudden, everyone stopped. Like all the ciphers stopped, and I could just see on the dance floor, like where the battles were going on, everyone stopped, and then they started just kind of like a school of fish. They started dancing in unison to Prince's Erotic City. And for some reason I was so like amazed by that. Like that from that night I started like I began writing my own kind of like songs, electro-pop kind of, you know, with a kind of like dancey vibe. And that's how the Long Ranger got started. I got inspired by Prince's Erotic City. Like, and who knew
That's
that like
cool.
that was the song that kind of helped me like process through like my father passing away. But yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, we played out a lot in Seattle, opened for a ton of like, you know, bands that were kind of touring through. Did a couple shows in LA too, actually, which is where you might have heard of us back in the day.
And you know, Jen, I know you have a ton of records out because you were solo for a long time. South by Southwest. You were pretty much, I think, 9 records total or something like that. Is that right?
I don't, I don't know. I don't think it's that many. I think, gosh, how many albums? I feel like maybe it's only like 6 or 7 full length, but yeah, like, I mean,
EPs included, I meant, you
yeah,
know.
EP's included.
I did look that up, so I know that you do have 9, by the way. 2 with Tattletales and 7 solo records. So I know
Thank you.
that one.
Thank you.
Um, and you know, I have to ask you about this because in 2023 you were on a tour with the Postal Service and Death Cab for Cutie, and you sat in with the Postal Service. I saw some videos of you singing with them. That must have been pretty cool. I'm a huge Jenny Lewis fan, by the way, so it was really cool.
Same, same. I'm actually a music teacher. So my other path, my other calling is teaching. And so I was literally just showing one of my students, my guitar students. I asked her, I'm tangenting, but I was like, hey, when you think of like some of the greatest like girl or female guitar players, who can you think of? And she was like, I don't know, which is what I expected. So then I'm like, then my job is like, okay, let me introduce you to some really cool women or younger girls who play guitar really well. And ironically, I was like, oh, I should show her Jenny Lewis. I got to introduce her to Jenny Lewis. So we watched a YouTube video of Jenny Lewis singing Silver Lining live back in 2009.
Rilo Kiley song? Is that a was
Yeah,
it?
yeah, yep. And she was just solo and it was just gorgeous. And I hadn't seen her sing that song in forever. And of course, my student was, really, really stoked about Jenny Lewis. But yeah, it was, I mean, being on tour with them was a dream. It was just absolutely epic and surreal. It was incredible. I had too much fun. It was so fun.
The video, one video I watched was the Madison Square Garden. I mean,
Isn't that incredible? They
yeah.
out. I know. I actually, I just heard from Ben recently, and he was saying, "Yep, we've, played the very last show of the tour." It's like It's been yeah, it's pretty incredible. I don't think anyone expected the tour to go to that level of success. Um, yeah, pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very cool.
Uh,
Can you give our listeners the backstory on how you guys met and started collaborating? I know the story's out there about a voice memo that you left on Ted's machine or something. Maybe you can you just tell us how you did you guys know each other, or when did you meet and how did it all happen?
I'll start, but then Ted, if you want to jump in after, that'd be cool because
Yeah.
Ted has a good story. So I met Ted through mutual friends in the like the underground like indie music scene in Seattle, and I saw his band play, at a house show in a basement, and right away, and it was him and your sister, right? Sylvia is in it too, and I was like, what? This band is awesome. So I kind of that's how I didn't even meet, I don't even think I met you, Ted, at that show, maybe peripherally, kind of.
Maybe, or I think it was at another party at like your
Yeah.
church or something like that.
So like I kind of knew who he was. I knew the band. It was the Long Ranger, right? Or was it
Yeah.
Stereo?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Long Ranger. And I was an Insta fan. I was like, I loved it. Loved your guys' music. And then Ted, I'll let you take over. And then fast forward years later. I mean, how many years? So I released my last full length album, Wilderness. The first song on that album is called Fell in Love. And then that was in 2014. And then Ted, you
Yeah.
reached me.
I think I heard that. So just jumping back, that was also so we had a house party, and it was the first night that the Maldives played as
Yeah,
well.
that right.
And then
Man.
yeah, and then my other band, the Stereo Future, also was their first night kind of playing, and then the Long Ranger was the first time playing. So you got to see the firsts of a lot of things there. So that was like, I mean, that was like pretty shortly after I moved there. So I've known Jen for 20 plus years, just kind of
Oh,
being around in the scene. And that was from all those people that worked at the video store, like all the bands. Actually, Jason, who was the singer of the Maldives, was working one of my like coworkers at the video store. So that's how we met. After and so yeah, I've known Jen around the scene for a long time, but we just never really like I don't know, formally worked together on stuff until I heard, yeah, Fell in Love. And then that was, I guess it was like shortly after, maybe a year after, I don't know. It just like came across somehow. And I was like, oh man, I'm really like into the song. And at that time, I had kind of like, I was, had wound down like a lot of the other bands that I was in. So I was in this sort of like lull space of like, okay, well, what do I do next? And I heard her song and I was like, shit, I really I'm digging this, but I could also hear like I don't know other stuff that I wanted to do with it or that I could do with it, and so I was like, man, wouldn't be like awesome to just kind of remix the song. So I hit her up and we did a remix and yeah, and then it just kind of like so that was the first thing, but then there was like some little span of time in between there where we were just kind of like I don't know, man, like just working through life, doing our things. But then, yeah, but that's, but we would still work on these little projects on and off.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
yeah, and that was over like several years.
Several years. I mean, because yeah, the remix was so good. I loved it. I was like, what? I was so psyched. And at that
was
time,
this
I was
was this
on a
younger? Was this younger or a previous song?
previously. This is like Fell in Love. This was
Okay,
Fell in Love. So Ted did a remix under Fades. Is it
Two
Faads?
A's,
Two A's.
for the younger people's, gotta have two
Yeah.
A's.
So yeah, it started out as Fell in Love, a remix, which then, uh, put Ted on my radar of like, oh, this is someone I could collaborate with for sure. And then I started going to your and your wife's house in Beacon Hill, and we started like working on little ideas kind of over a span of a couple years. And then, like Ted was, hinting at life things happen. I went through a really, really devastating divorce, super just awful. hellish divorce. And, you know, I kind of returned to Ted during that time. Because I needed, you know what I mean? I needed some type of outlet to heal, to kind of work through a lot of shit.
Yeah.
And I reached out to Ted because, well, we had this history. You know, we've known each other for so long. I always knew that he was a good dude and he was like a safe person for me. I just like knew that I could trust him and I felt safe with him. So I started going to his house and just his studio, you know, your home studio, and started sharing voice memos at that time. And we didn't know what the fuck we were doing. Oh, sorry, I cussed. You might bleep that out.
No, I don't bleep fuck out. I leave it in.
Okay. That's a cuss word that I tend to use. It does happen. So yeah, we didn't know what we were doing, but it was just, you know, experimental. We were improvising. And something pretty magical happened right away when we started working together in your studio at your house in Seattle. I just like emotionally, energetically, spiritually, I was like, what is this? What is this thing? Like when him and I make music, something bigger than us is happening, something, you know, magical. So yeah, and then it was a very slow process. And then, you know, I had to go through my divorce and rebuilding my life and a lot of healing. And yeah,
moved like you like. Yeah.
I like
get the hell out, like
got the hell out. I was like, Seattle, peace out. I gotta go. Like this is too much for me. I need to start a new life. I need to start fresh. And then I moved to California. And then we reconnected again when I was in California. Was that 2019?
No, I mean, that was like, I think once you got, because you ended up in Palm Springs and you were kind of settling in there. And then once you settled in, I think we started kind of like re-engaging again. I'm just going to jump back to like, you know, back when you were recording at my house, we're just kind of like working through this stuff, like, and you know, what you're talking about with those voice notes, like, so Jen, like once we started working together again, Jen was like, hey, I have these these songs that I've been working on, and they were really, really like very personal, very private, very vulnerable things that she was just kind of like catching on, you know, she just put on her phone and record like either her playing guitar or her playing piano and then singing on top of that. And once I heard some of these voice notes, it was this energetic thing. I like with Younger, as soon as I heard that, I was like, shit, I know what this is going to be. Like I could already hear the eventual song just from her singing and you know, playing a little bit of piano. I knew exactly where I wanted to go with that. And so that was cool to kind of just have that like instantaneous sort of like energy hit. And so that's how Younger came about. I mean, it took a while, right? It's 2024. We started in 2017, 16 or whatever.
I know. And that's like, I'm getting emotional right now because I was reflecting, Steev, before we signed on with you. You know, Ted and I have talked about this just between him and I, but this has been such a long fucking journey. It has taken us a long time, and it's taken me personally years and years and years and years to get here to this moment now. And it has been so challenging, so difficult, so amazing, so enlightening, you know, like just a very transformative time, you know, and it's like, wow. Like it's like hitting me, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's been a long journey. I mean, my last, like, you know, I've been doing like guest vocal work. I was like in a couple bands here and there, but it wasn't me. I wasn't sharing what was going on with me. I was, like Ted said, it was very personal. I was keeping everything private, I was scared. I didn't feel safe. I was in such a vulnerable spot. And so it's emotional, like to just be here right now. And you're our first interview. So thank you so much, by the way.
I'm honored.
We're honored too.
I hope I passed the audition.
for you.
Before I ask you about the name, I was curious, Jen, to me, you're like an indie rocker, and you've been indie rock for years. Is your fan base aware of what you're going through, this transformation into the electronic world, or is this going to really surprise a lot of people?
I think it's going to surprise a lot of people. I think that there's like, I kind of sort of have like a loyal, like a small loyal following of people. But because I've been pretty quiet, like I haven't been making my own music, I definitely think that people are going to be surprised, which I'm excited about. I'm excited to surprise people. Like, hey, look what I'm doing now. Like, look who I am now. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So I do think people are going to be surprised.
I was curious about that because I went back and listened to some of your older stuff, and it's a big difference, you know. The name, Gems. What's the story behind that? Ted's got a big smile on his face, so I think he's going to have the
Ted?
answer for this.
Oh no, I was just thinking like so we I was like we put a Z at the end, same joke as before, just because for the younger people, but also just because I think it fit. Like it's I think it's part in ways of like this. It describes our process in a lot of ways of how we got together in our songwriting process of like discovery. Because we live in yeah, we live in different towns. So she's in Palm Springs. I'm in Sebastopol in Northern Cali,
Hmm.
in the West County in the North Bay. But like, um, so we it's hard for us to kind of be together to kind of do things at the same time. So
Hmm.
oftentimes we're kind of sending stuff back and forth.
Yeah.
And so in that process, like, for me, like I'm always looking for those gems, right? Like those little moments, those little loops, the little things that the hooks, right? That kind of like that resonate.
Did
So
you
in
did you
what
actually come up with the name?
no, we came up with it like together. I
Pretty
think it
much
was fairly organic.
it
Yeah.
was. Yeah. I don't remember who. I think we both literally were thinking the same idea, the same name. Um, yeah, I mean, if you think of it like songs are like gems, these little, or like hidden gems, or you have like, this glimmery, shiny, sparkly, beautiful thing, Um, and then
Also like
oh, I was just going to say about the Z. I also just like the letter Z. It's one of if I had a favorite letter, I really like the Z. I just think I don't know. I like the letter Z. So I was like, yeah, it looks cool as like a design element, It's like, let's put a Z on that.
You guys are
uh,
Gemzers.
Gem's
Gemzers.
ears.
Gem's
Well,
ears.
Gem's ears. And then also, there was a show was it the 90s called Gem and the Holograms. And it was an
It's
animation
like
like
a cartoon
I
or in the
remember that.
80s.
I remember that.
about the Supergirl, and her name was Gem,
Yeah. Wow.
Jem. And there was always crystals and like these superpowers, and these girls had like magical powers from like the galaxies, and so there was kind of this like joke that Ted and I made about that. Like, well, Gem, gems, like
Yeah. This was like our alter ego in
yeah.
many ways.
I want to ask you about some of the songs that are going to be on the See the Future EP, 5-song EP. Um, I gotta talk about this, the ukulele, because I don't think I'm not the hugest expert on electronic music, but I don't think I've ever heard a ukulele in electronic music. And when I listened to Cycle Stops with Me, I was like, that's a ukulele. And I was wondering what Ted's instant
Yeah.
reaction to that was.
Real quick, guys. Hey, Steve. I'm not sure. I'm sorry to interrupt. Are you going to edit this after, or do you just upload it like as is usually?
Yeah.
Okay, because I live in the desert, and we're having a heat. My air conditioning just kicked on, and it's going to mess with the audio. Can I go turn it off real quick?
Sure. And
Come right back. Okay, hold on.
Ted will entertain me for a while.
Yeah.
So Ted, so you
Hmm.
watched a video of me being interviewed. What did you think of that?
I mean, I loved it. It was actually really like I just put it on and I was just kind of doing some stuff in the background and I was like really I was stoked. I mean, like I was saying, it's amazing. Like everyone has stories, you know, their lives, everyone's lives are super rich. And I don't know, like just hearing about, you know, the shenanigans that you went through, and I mean, I can only imagine, man. Like that was just like an interview, but like the actual stories of how you were, you know, what you went through, and like, you know, the people that you met, and like I don't know, man. Like that's super engaging and super rich, you know.
I'm really
I guess
excited.
it's
I'm really happy to hear that you actually listened to that interview. That's pretty cool that you did. I went to LA. I was very young when I went out there, and it was like I didn't know what I was getting into, but I got a job at Enigma Records, which is like in the 80s was a very hot label. And then it just
Mhm.
was a chain reaction of one label to another. I did go up to Seattle a few times. Matter of fact, when you were talking about the video store, I was remembering Easy Street Records. I don't know if you remember that
Yeah.
place in
Oh
Seattle.
yeah, big
Jeff,
time.
I think was the guy's name.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. Yeah, Easy Street, definitely. That's like a fixture in the Seattle music scene, big time.
I mean, the closest I worked a little bit with Seattle bands, but the one I worked a lot with on was Mother Love Bone. I don't know if you remember them. Their
Oh yeah.
EP, the Shine EP. I was at Metal Blade Records at the time, and their A&R guy and marketing people brought it to us and asked us if we could get the bass going with like back then mom and pop retail and college radio and fanzines were really big back then.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I got to meet those guys. I remember I met Stone and Jeff. They came down to the office and Andrew Wood.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know.
That's so cool. Funny little side note, the high school I went to, Stone Gossard graduated from the same high school I went to.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I ended up recording a lot of my solo albums at Stone's studio in Fremont in Seattle called Litho. So
Do you know Pete Druge? I always get his name wrong. Druge, and Elaine Summers. Do you know them?
I those names, bells are ringing. I
They were on Stone's label that he had going for a while. And I know Elaine really I
yeah,
worked with
I know that
Elaine.
name. Oh, totally. I can't remember specifics, but definitely that name rings a bell for sure. For sure. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Wow, Mother Love Bone.
Now back to our regular programming, folks. Ukuleles. Can we talk about, I never really grown as fond. I mean, I remember Tiny Tim, of course. Probably you guys probably don't because you're younger than I am, but I do remember George Harrison's love for ukuleles because they used to talk about that a lot. How did you get into the ukulele?
I mean, it started in Hawaii, honestly. Like my first trip to Hawaii went to Kona. And I think that's where, I discovered the ukulele. And I was like, oh, what is this beautiful, tiny little sparkly, magical instrument? And I'm very tiny and petite. So I was like, oh, it's perfect. Like, you know what I mean? So I got my first ukulele back in, oh my God, I don't know, it's been forever ago. And and I write a lot of stuff on ukulele now.
You're saying ukulele. Is that how you say it properly?
Yes, yes, ukulele.
I got to
Yeah.
get rid of the ukulele.
Yeah, it's not ukulele. It's ukulele, but I say it both
Lele,
ways.
ukulele.
Lele.
Wow, what a
Yeah.
lesson.
It's how the Hawaiians say it, I guess. Yeah.
That's how the Hawaiians say it. I think, what's cool about that instrument, about the ukulele, is that for me, I tend to write, very personal, like heart on your sleeve, like, deeply feeling, deeply thinking songs that are sometimes intense. And so what I've found is that when I start to write songs on the ukulele, it sort of transmutes the energy. It kind of lightens it up just because the nature of the instrument is there's like a happy
It is
feeling.
happy.
And so it infuses more light and joyfulness into a topic that could be pretty heavy and serious. So I think that's why I gravitate towards that song. And Cycle Stops, you know, yeah, that's like a very personal, kind of intense song for me. And yeah, so
You have a
Well,
lot of
ironic.
personal. Oh, I was gonna get. Don't worry, Ted, because I need to get your
Oh no,
reaction to the
go ahead. Yeah,
ukulele,
Lele.
lele.
ukulele.
Ukulele.
Um, okay, I forgot what I was gonna say, so I'll just ask Ted. So you hear it, right, Ted? So you
Oh yeah,
hear.
yeah.
Oh, I know what I was gonna say, Jen. All your songs are very intent. I sometimes I say to people, "Do you write out of personal experience or force?" And I have a feeling I know the answer to that question already. That you write out of personal feelings, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. It's a, like a lot of artists, songwriters, it's a cathartic healing experience for us. It's a way that we can process some really, intense stuff. It's not always about me, for sure. I don't. A lot of songs I write about other people, but I will put it in the first person, so it's almost like an empathy exercise. So sometimes I'll write songs where I'm singing like I da 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 I, but I'm actually singing about somebody else, But I'm putting it in my shoes, singing from
Yeah,
my.
I get it.
So yeah, but yeah, very very personal stuff, which is why it's yeah, it's always a bit of feeling vulnerable, but ultimately, sometimes it's like I feel like I'm making a return to music after a long time of not creating stuff, and um, and it's like, well, why am I doing this again? Why am I, why is the universe pulling me to, come back to music? Why did the late Sonic Ritual Records approached me? I was like, what? Why do they want me? Because I was just like, I'm like living in this desert town, like a little like hermit. It's like, and I just, yeah, man. I mean, I just hope that these songs that are so personal to me help other people. That's honestly my mission and my goal through these songs is to just help others know that they're not alone, that, the stuff that I've gone through, that they're going through too, like we can get through it. We can get through it,
I
like,
like that. I lived in Arizona, in Phoenix for 2 years, so I know what it's like having to turn the air conditioner off. So thank you for doing that, even though it wasn't bothering me, but or
okay.
us.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I just know
Okay,
it's
now,
coming.
okay, Ted, sorry. This question I've been trying to get to it for a while, but here we go. So
No, all good.
I know I'm gonna botch this. Ukulele.
Got it.
That's good.
You hear it, and what are you thinking?
Well, so ironically, it's like because we were just talking about how the ukulele sort of like uplifts, is kind of has this lighter, kind of happier energy. But the voice note that I heard and how she's playing it is actually very kind of like sad and melancholic. The chords that she's playing are sort of like very introspective and sort of I don't know. There's a deepness and kind of like a underlying sadness to that, right? For me, like maybe it's just because I was like Asian American and like not used to the way things are done here. I kind of like I there's no in my brain like I'm not it's gonna like piss off a lot of people, but like I'm not a purist by any means. And when it comes to music, like I don't give a shit. Like if it's a certain if it has a sound and it has an energy, then and then cool, let's use that, right? So like for me, yeah, ukulele, like I don't know, like doesn't seem like a big deal to like put that into an electronic track or if it has like a certain energy. And for me, like I'm always looking for, I guess, contrast, like emotional contrast.
Mhm.
And so that's sort of what when I heard that song, that was another one of those songs when I heard it, and I was like, okay, I know exactly where I want to go with this too, because I could hear that contrast with in her voice and with the ukulele playing and like so just wanted to kind of like you know kind of bring that out and kind of like yeah just kind of tease that out to as much as I could.
I kind of think I understand the songwriting process. Jen writes the song, she brings it to you, and then she writes the lyrics, and then you work on the music. Is there anything more to it than that, Ted?
I mean it's very collaborative. A lot of these songs are they're not full songs quite yet. A lot of them are voice memos. I mean to be honest, like it's a lot of her just sort of like rambling. Like if you listen to these voice memos, they're 10 minutes long. there's a little thing, and then it kind of like trails off, and then there's like that becomes like something completely different. Maybe it's a completely different key change, or even a different vibe, right? In these things. So it's a lot of like stream of consciousness.
Mhm.
And so for me, I'm always, I'm just paying attention, looking out for those hooks, those kind of emotional
Mhm.
gems, I guess, right?
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
from that, I'll either take like a snippet, like literally just chop up that voice memo into something, right? To kind of lay that down as like a base. And then, uh, yeah, and then we kind of build from there, right? So it's sort of like, okay, let's find that energetic hook. And then we sort of collaborate to kind of build out from that. And it could completely change by the end of it, but like that's really kind of like the heart of where the song begins.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
talked a little bit about Younger and Cycle Stops Me. What about the other tracks on the EP? Was there a lot to pick from, or did you just have these five tracks and you're like, this is how we want it to be?
Well, yeah, there was a lot to choose from because I had been like secretly
Sorry,
hoarding.
that's my cat. He just
Hey,
I felt something go against my back and I'm like,
Hi.
it's his tail.
Oh, what's his
little
name?
cat butt bomb.
Well,
Oh,
he came from a shelter that I did some work with, and they started naming cats after towns. His name is Camden, Maine.
Camden, Maine. I love that.
Camden, I don't know if you've ever been to Maine, but
I have actually. Randomly, I played a show in Maine. We had this
probably
nice.
in Portland. Portland's a cool town to
Yeah,
play.
yeah. Oh, that's cool.
I'm
Uh,
sorry, once again, a
yeah,
distraction that
that's
I
all good.
created.
No, I have a dog, and so does Ted. And you probably hear her collar jingle jangling. She might bark. We'll see. She's being really good right now. But so basically, I had been writing song ideas on voice memos, recording voice memo ideas, since like 2015 and stashing it in what I just kind of like jokingly refer to as the vault. It's like the secret Jen Wood vault where like nobody was allowed to access the vault. It was like secure, high security vault. So when Ted and I, we met up at a coffee shop in Palm Springs. And I was like, Ted, I've got this I mean, I think I whittled it down to like, I remember spending hours and hours, like trying to just like, select like a few, like maybe 10. I can't remember the first batch
I think
out
you
of,
had like 20. Yeah, 20
yeah,
was the
but I
first.
like, there's like hundreds, hundreds of ideas.
Hundreds.
Hundreds, because if you think about it from 2015 and we're in 2024, I've been writing ideas the whole time, but just not sharing it, you know? And doing other bands. I was like in a metal band, like metal kind of band have you heard of it called This White Light?
No, you were in a metal band?
Yes, I was. So that's part of what brought me to California is that I got recruited to be the lead singer of this project with Greg Anderson from Sun O, who
Wow.
owns Southern Lorne Records. And we had this short stint. We were called This White Light, and we got to work with Josh Homme at his studio. Anywho, that's a tangent, but I did write lyrics for that band, but they wrote all the music. Anywho,
Wow.
yeah. By the time I shared with Ted, you had what, about 20, I guess, like you said, to
Yeah,
pick. So
yeah.
yeah,
And how did you manage to get it down to five?
I mean,
Ted.
I think.
I was actually looking at Ted and seeing what he was going to say.
He's the wizard. See, he's really, I mean, Ted is a genius in disguise, and I'm excited for the world to discover, you know, your genius. He's absolutely brilliant. I mean, you've heard him say, Steve, a couple times how he hears something and right away he has a vision for the whole song. Like you keep saying that, Ted, and that's one of the many, brilliant gifts that Ted has. So it's like I feel like Ted, you just search for those gems. It's like that energy, like you're saying, that like it's just I don't know. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
Searches for
I think
those
like
gems. I like that. The
I'm like
gems.
totally. I'm always mining right, for those gems. I think I like I think maybe it's like kind of goes back to again like kind of trying to find my way um, from an early age, as an Asian American. I think I have a very deep memory of like Bon Jovi's "Living on a Prayer" as like the first song that I could remember as like that like an earworm, right? And that kind of had this emotional connection to it. And it was before like I don't know, just like songs, pop songs, rock songs have always helped me kind of like find a way through life,
Mhm.
right? So like yeah, so I'm like I guess like instinctively tuned to kind of look for those hooks, those little gems. So out of those 20 songs, that's sort of like what I was looking for. It's like those things that kind of like resonated on an emotional level.
Right, right. And you're
Um,
really good at gifted at picking those out because at this point, I didn't know what was what. I had so many ideas. I didn't know if any of it was good, what was actually going to be able to come to life or not. But Ted, it's absolutely amazing. Like, I mean, obviously he's a huge part of why these songs sound the way they sound.
He's a
It's like
producer, basically. He's the
he's a
producer,
producer.
and
Yeah.
yeah,
I get it. I totally get it. You guys seem like an odd pairing, but I can understand how it works.
yeah.
So
It's funny because it's like we were just talking about this yesterday. Like the music in many ways is sort of just a byproduct of sort of like the vibe that we have when we talk about creativity and like, just life in general. I think that's sort of like the connective tissue is that like we've both been on our own kind of separate odysseys. We met in Seattle, but like I don't live in Seattle anymore. Like I'm in Sebastopol, California. So, we moved shortly after, I mean, everyone's got their COVID stories, right? Like of change and sort of transition. And so, yeah, like in the middle of COVID and all the lockdowns, my wife and I were like, what the hell are we doing here? Like, Seattle's changed completely. Our friends are like going through, doing things, and like half of them have moved away. Like, there's no reason for us to kind of be here anymore. So, we like sold our home and like traveled for 2 years and somehow ended up here. Like, it was not planned. We kind of explored and yeah, so I think, but Jen and I were working through music and talking through this the whole time, and it just sort of like kind of synced up in this way, where like we could kind of write some music together, and but like the base of it is still this sort of like I don't know collective sort of journeying that we're both on.
yeah, yeah, and that's why I mean, Steve, what you said, you kind of made a joke that it's kind of an odd pairing. I mean, that's what's exciting to me is that Ted has introduced me to something musically totally new. And I needed that. I was kind of stuck in a rut. Like I'd been kind of writing the same kind of music, and so I was just really ready for something new, to try something totally new. I mean, I think also it's representative of my personal growth as a human, like what I've been through, what I've overcome, like all this stuff. I just like, those times in life where you're like, you just need to do something new. We're starting fresh. Like you're not the same person you were anymore. Let's celebrate that. How do we celebrate growth and, overcoming shit and like rising up from the ashes? How do we celebrate that? And again, the EP is called See the Future. It's about looking to the future. So, um, I can see why you said that, Steve, because it's kind of like, wow, like this is really different, these two people working together. But it's been such a beautiful experience and such like an amazing friendship that has come through this. And the thing is like, we're not just right. We're not just writing songs and like, he's not just producing songs. Like we are experiencing the songs through our life experience. And we're talking about stuff in life that we have both been going through that has been really challenging and really difficult. Like, Um, whether it's like traumas that I've had to overcome and deal with, or Ted's, like stuff that he's overcome and dealt with too. So it's been such a surprisingly beautiful pairing, and I love collaborating with Ted. I think he's, again, absolute genius. And it's just exciting to do something new, it's just as an artist, it's just good. It's good for the soul, Yeah, I just wanted to share that.
Oh, I think your vibe is fabulous. I really do. I'm sure Ted does as well. So,
$100%.
so what's happening now? You're gonna be releasing this EP on October 22nd. Is there gonna be a tour? Is there gonna be touring? Are you doing it a traditional way, a non-traditional way? What's the plan?
I think it's sort of like, it's choose your own adventure at this point. Like we're planning on still like writing, we want to come out with a full LP, and like that's in the works. We're always going to be writing music. We have plans to like start playing out and kind of maybe doing a small tour of some sort. It's just going to be interesting because I haven't been on a stage in over a decade, so this is going to be really fun
Oh,
to
he's
explore
such a
that
nerd.
again.
Oh my gosh.
Well,
Ted, I mean, oh yeah, he's
I was going
natural.
to say, Jen was on the Madison Square Garden stage, so she'll make up for the
I
shows
wasn't.
you weren't on.
No. I wasn't at that show.
Oh, you
I
weren't?
No, I toured. So Steve, I just toured the West Coast.
I'm sorry. I don't know why
Yeah.
I don't know what
Jenny
video I
Lewis.
was watching. You
So Jenny
definitely was
Lewis,
singing. You were definitely
Jenny,
singing the song. I know that.
yeah. So I toured with them during the West Coast, but Jenny Lewis has been singing my parts for years. She's been singing my parts, on Such Great Heights and Nothing Better. So she was at Madison Square Garden. So I did the West Coast, like Hollywood Bowl and Seattle
The
Climate Pledge,
Greek,
the
I got to
Great.
see
Hollywood
her.
Ball.
Yeah.
Hollywood Ball. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, there she is. Okay, I'm gonna have to hold on a second. I'll be right back. So
Okay.
you guys continue. I'll
Yeah,
be back.
Ted and I can find something to talk about. Now,
I
where
love
were
these
we,
little
Ted?
detours. Yeah, yeah.
I don't
Well,
know
I
why.
was gonna ask.
I don't know why I thought I read that was the Madison Square Garden. It was a big venue, though. I know that.
I think she played like she started at Key Arena in Seattle, like or Climate Pledge Arena, where like the
Well,
Seattle Storm
those
is.
are pretty big venues
I
Yeah,
too.
mean, yeah,
yeah.
arena, coliseums. It's not
Okay,
just like some
because
like yeah.
I know it
So
looked
it was
okay.
20,000 people. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
20,000 people. And the last time I played with the Postal Service was at their 10-year anniversary it was called the Key Arena back then. So Ted, yeah, it was Key Arena, and then they changed it to Climate Pledge, and I hadn't been in front of, I mean, the shows that I've been playing with other bands and stuff have all been smaller shows. So, I hadn't played to 20,000 people in 10 years. And suddenly, it's like, okay, here you go. Jump in. Let's fly. Let's do it.
Well, the video I did see, wherever it was, you were awesome.
Yeah.
Because I
Thank you.
know you and Jenny were both in the video. She was
Yes.
playing keyboards and
Yes.
stuff. So I was like, that's awesome. Um, what I want to ask you guys before we go is, are you guys listening to a lot of music, and what are you listening to these days?
Oh man, the oh, you go ahead because this
Okay.
is gonna take me a minute.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, lately I've really been into Fred again. So I've been getting into his stuff a lot, which is that, like dance, electronic dance music vibe. So I've been listening to him a lot. I honestly listen to a lot of like R&B and pop. I always have, even before my punk rock girl fate, you know what I mean? Like the first kind of music I listened to, like the first singer that caught my attention to Whitney Houston. I think I was 11 years old, and Ella Fitzgerald. So
Wow.
I've kind of been into jazz and pop and R&B. But yeah, I'm really into Fred again right now. And then what else? I mean, I've been listening to like just pop music. I mean, Tove Lo, Selena Gomez. What else? Yeah, a lot of just like pop stuff. Yeah.
I read an interview of yours, and you listed a bunch of old soul singers, like a long line of female soul singers. I don't know if you remember doing that interview. Someone asked you who your favorite inspirations were, and it was like You named them all.
I don't remember that interview, but yes, yes, it's true. It's true. Yeah.
No
Ted,
metal though, huh?
no metal, no, it's so funny. Greg Anderson, when I was in the band with him, This White Light, I remember when we first started working together, because he knew, that we had a lot of mutual friends. He's a bit older than me, but he kind of knew about Tattletale and like knew that I was in the punk scene, when I was younger. He asked me that question, like, what are you listening to? And you should have seen the look on Greg's face when I told him what I was listening to. He was like, I was like, well, yeah, I listened to like Ariana Grande. I listened to like, Selena Gomez, and I listened to like pop. And he was like, do you listen to any punk? And I'm like, not really. And he was like, whoa.
I thought he was expecting you to say Queensryche, or something
Yeah.
like.
But of course, I always return to Fugazi. Fugazi comes back often. Blueprint is one of my favorite songs by them. But yeah, so no metal. I mean, definitely some punk stuff here and there. Lungfish. I don't know if you know who they are.
Yes.
Yeah, Slint. I'm a huge Slint fan.
Oh wow, nice.
And but then I love stuff like Three Mile Pilot, Pinback. Yeah, yeah.
So you're all over. You're
I
pretty
am
much across the board.
dude. I'm just it's a rainbow. It's the full rainbow spectrum of music for me.
I wanted to try and guess to see what Ted would say, but I'm not going to say. Go ahead, Ted. I'm gonna let you tell us.
Okay, well, kind of similar to what I was saying before. Like, I'm not a purist by any means. One of the ironies of like streaming like platforms, Spotify, is that like I'm always listening to shit, but I can never remember who I'm listening to because it's not the same anymore, right? Like cracking open a CD or an album and looking at it's like a very deliberate experience. So like my brain, it's like shifted the way that my brain remembers stuff. Um, so lately it's been a lot of like, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm in Sonoma and I'm just driving around these woods and these like country back roads, but like I've been listening to like a lot of neo psych rock,
Mhm.
a lot of like shoegazy, vibes. But also like I'm always listening to pop, just trying to find those like other gems, right? So like Chapel Rowan, like Good Luck
Oh,
Pig.
yeah,
That's like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I'll
yeah.
I'll nerd out on a few songs. I just heard like another song I sent to Jen was like what was it called?
I'm looking at our
So
Gems Inspo. We have a playlist because I'm writing a bunch of new songs right now too. And is it on our
uh,
Gems Inspo playlist?
it might
Because
be
like,
Told My Love.
Is
oh
that
yeah,
Yeah,
Spotify?
yeah. Um,
yeah.
Losing
But
My
like
Love, that one?
no, I don't know. It's Told My
What?
Love. I think it's Bomba Estero. And I actually heard that in a Walmart of all places. Like this.
Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. I
Like
remember Losing My
indie
Love.
Spanish freaking like pop song, and it's like yeah.
So good.
Um, but I have like 20 million playlists, and actually listening to your interview last night, I was like, oh, and so I started listening to some Aussie. I have this playlist called Music Bio that I've been kind of putting together. Now it's like got like 423 songs now of like every song that I could remember that has some kind of like historical relevance or something that I connected to, no matter how like embarrassing it is, right? Like so like I think Marky Mark might be in there,
Yeah.
like Good Vibrations.
Personal experience, you mean?
Yeah, like just things that I could remember like musically, right?
Wow,
Like
that's
as
cool.
like yeah, I just did it as like a personal sort of like I don't know, it's an experiment to see like what can you find any patterns in here. And I actually discovered that I gravitated to a lot of sad songs, like like Annie Lennox's "Why" or like Bonnie
Mm.
Raitt, "I Can't Make You Love Me," like those things, like the emotional hooks. But anyways, from listening to your podcast, I dropped like "Every Rose Has Its Thorn" because you signed Poison, and like which is amazing, by the way, that you like
So
you
amazing.
you discovered and broke Poison. Like what the hell, man?
Well, I didn't do it all by myself, but I
Yeah.
mean, it was pretty incredible time. It's when you think about how long ago that was, 85, it's like wow. I was very young.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it kind of goes by in a blink in many ways, right? Like,
I don't know why I thought you were going to say that you're into Linkin Park and stuff like that, but I don't know, maybe.
no, like I never got into like sort of the newer rock electronic sort of hybrid things.
I see.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but
Okay,
like I mean, there's elements of that. Like honestly, like I was listening to "Mama, I'm Coming Home." I dropped that in there because that was something that I kind of stuck with me. And actually, there's elements of that I could hear sonically of that in some of the songs that we put out. Actually, in the last section of Karma, where it gets like really big, kind of stadium rock kind of thing.
yeah.
I was like, holy shit! Like that's
Okay, I have to
it's
re-listen
like
to
the
that
drums
now.
in that. Yeah,
I have to see if I hear
yeah.
Ozzy in that now.
And are you talking about the anthemic, like the breakdown, the super anthemic, like
Yeah, like when it gets into like the gated reverb 80s drums at the end, like, and
yeah.
I was playing like I was playing Mama I'm Coming Home, and I was like, holy crap, sonically they're in the same wheelhouse. Like that's what I'm saying. Like I don't nothing's sacred to me. Like I'm just listening for stuff and listening for things that like hit me emotionally, and whether it sits in this category, like it doesn't really matter. Like the thing is if it hits you, and so that's I guess that's the common thread.
I was
Yeah.
uh I wanted to look at something real quick here, but uh I don't usually do this, but I can't remember the band. I interviewed someone recently, not too recent, but pretty recently, and she kind of took a similar path. Um, oh yeah, it was Emily Whitehurst. Do you know who Emily Whitehurst is? She was in a band called Tsunami Bomb. They were like a 90 early 2000s punk band from Northern California, pretty close to where you're living. And she does
Okay.
all electronic music now. Survival Guide
Okay.
is the name. So it's kind of interesting how
Oh, yeah.
it's interesting to me how people have changed their musical direction, and you guys have similarly ukulele have done that, and I was trying to remember that while we were talking. I had to look it up because I couldn't remember Tsunami Bomb, but I don't know if you ever heard of them. But Survival Guide, I think you might like,
Oh, cool.
definitely.
Thank you. Yeah. Brad, awesome. I just searched it up. I found her, so I'll check her out.
Oh,
Yeah,
Emily's
Oh,
you,
gonna.
Petaluma.
yeah,
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's like Petaluma's like 30 minutes away from me, so that's
that's what I
cool.
thought when you mentioned Sonoma, not Sonoma. Yes, I'm going to
Sebastopol, yeah,
California,
Sonoma
by the way.
County.
I'm going to California next week, but I'm going to be in LA for a while.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
Right on.
Not too far from Palm Springs, but I don't think I'll be driving out in that direction. I am
Yeah.
going to the one of the punk and Dublick shows, It's like because I know the Dropkick Murphys, they're from around here and they're playing, so I got an in to tickets.
Oh,
And there's
fun.
like
Nice.
a bunch of punk bands playing. No FX's last 5 shows together, so three
That's gonna
shows
be a
together.
Wow.
Yeah.
blast. That's gonna be a
I don't
blast.
know why I'm telling you guys this, but why not? Uh,
Why not? Well, because we're in California and we're talking about
yes.
music, and you're going to a rad music festival in California, so makes
As much
sense.
as I love New England, there's nothing to me as good as California. I mean, I used to love going to, Portland and Seattle too. And the whole North Pacific Northwest is really
Mhm.
nice as well. But I like Southern California.
It's the
West
best.
Coast.
Oh, it
Yeah.
nothing compares. Nothing compares. I mean, this morning I was, out on a walk with my dog, and the sun. I'm not usually up super early, but today I was, and I saw, the sunrise, and it was literally like that classic California postcard. It had the golden yellows, the soft oranges, a little bit of pink, and then it was just like a sea of palm trees in front of that. And I like literally stopped. I just had to stand there and just like just revel in the beauty. I was like, California, man,
The
nothing compared.
desert, the desert's the best place for that too. It
Gorgeous
really
stuff.
is. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I drove Route 10 so many times from LA to Phoenix, and you would see so many cool. Then you'd stop and it'd be 115 degrees. okay. Well, hey, you
Definitely.
At least it
guys,
was dry.
I
you know,
remember. Yeah. Yeah.
when your publicist contacted me about this, I was kind of like, I don't know. I mean, and then I listened to the music and stuff, and I was like, you know what? This is pretty cool. And then I figured out who you were, and I'm like, oh, wait a second, I know what's going on. So thanks a lot,
You're
for
welcome.
doing this, you guys. I really, really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Well,
It's been,
thanks for having us on. Yeah,
yeah.
it's been
And
super
good
fun.
luck.
Thank you very much. We
Thanks,
appreciate that.
Steve.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right.
Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.